What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So for this horror news update today, we have a few stories that we're going to be talking about. Resident Evil seems to be the one coming up from Zach Cregger's. It's not a reboot, not a remake. I think we're just going to be calling it the next sequel, the next addition to the overall franchise. Apparently something's been leaked. We're going to talk about it. Might give us a little bit of insights into what this next adaptation of Resident Evil is going to look like, because we've been covering it for quite some time. I think almost like once or twice a week, because more and more information keeps coming out about this film. And it seems as if Zach is... he's come out and said he's not going to be telling a story that's already been told in the video games. He's going to be creating, even though he's going to be sticking to, so to speak, the lore of the video games and trying to get back to the horror roots, he's not going to be retelling any stories that have already been told. Now, what that looks like, I have no idea. Now, we do know, we did talk about this, where apparently he already had a script or an idea pretty much written out and done. And he would have done that particular story or film, what have you, had it not have been used or going to be used for Resident Evil. So I'm sure he'd have to do some tweaking to make it, I guess, fit more the Resident Evil aspects. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about 28 years later, the Bone Temple. It's been all quiet. I mean, it seems like it's been very quiet on the 28 years later, I don't want to call it saga, but ever since the first film in this new trilogy dropped, it seemed like the hype for that film and the subsequent sequel has really died off and almost non-existent. I'll admit, I was hyped for 28 years later to come out. There was a lot of hype for that film to come out. And I've said this before, and I will stand 10 toes down on this. I think a lot of that hype was due to the fact that obviously Danny Boyle came back, but it was, Cillian Murphy's coming back. And then we all got this image that was released, and we all, including myself, thought, oh my gosh, that's Cillian Murphy. He's got the rage virus. He's turned. And I think within literally 12 hours of that image dropping, we came back out with a video the next day saying, yep, it was confirmed. The actor who's actually playing that part came out and said that's actually me, not Cillian Murphy. So there was a lot of hype. And then we found out, Cillian Murphy, not going to be around for the first film. Yeah, he's not going to be around for the second film. And only if we can get this third film funded and backed and made, then Cillian Murphy will show up. So, and I've said this, and again, I'll stand 10 toes down on this one. I'll die on the hill by myself if I have to. I felt it was a very much bait and switch situation, because they were very much leading the charge of Cillian Murphy, and then here we are, no Cillian Murphy. So we also have an update on some returning actresses for a reboot to a franchise I know is beloved by many. It's not beloved by me. And apparently Shudder, I think it was Screambox maybe. Shudder or Screambox got an extensive upload of a lot of Troma movies. Again, I think it was Screambox. I don't think it was Shudder, but we're going to cover that anyways. We'll scroll through real quickly and see what that was about. So let's get into our first article for the day. This is the reboot information as I was talking about. So, as you can see from this headline, Anna Faris and Regina will return in Scary Movie Reboot, releasing summer 2026. I am not a fan of this franchise. There are some I do know love the franchise. Doesn't matter, first film, second film, what they love the entire thing. It's just not a franchise for me. I never could get behind any of these films, but it has its following, and I respect that. So let's jump into it. Miramax and Paramount are bringing the Scary Movie franchise back to theaters with a new reboot movie, and Deadline reports say that franchise veterans Anna Faris and Regina will once again make magic together. Yes, they're both coming back for a Scary Movie reboot. The horror spoof franchise was developed by Marlon Wayans, Sean Wayans, and Kean Ivory Wayans, and the Wayans brothers are back to write the brand new movie. And Anna Faris and Regina said in a joint statement this afternoon, "We can't wait to bring Brenda and Cindy back to life and be reunited with our great friends Keenan, Sean, and Marlon. Three men we'd literally die for. In Brenda's case, again." Michael Tids, again, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, I'm trying my best to pronounce names correctly when we come across them, is directing the franchise's upcoming sixth installment, releasing on June 12th, 2026, with Rick Alvarez writing and producing alongside the Wayans brothers. So, I mean, do we really? I mean, and I know this statement I'm about ready to make. I know many people. I don't want to say don't take kindly to it, but do we need this? In my opinion, no. But I don't think it's a matter of whether or not we need it or don't need it. I think it's a matter of the studio feels that they can make money by pushing this back out or bringing this franchise back to life. And in my opinion, I think they see other franchises doing it. Like, again, I use like Scream, for example, because Scream was very successful in bringing their franchise back and getting the hype for it. Now, with the next Scream film coming out early next year, there's a lot of hype behind that one. I think, in my opinion, I Know What You Did Last Summer attempted once again to do what Scream has already done, and in my opinion, failed. Side note, I haven't seen the new film yet, but I have very, very little hopes for it. So, Marlon, Sean, and Kean Wayans said in a recent statement, "We couldn't be more excited to be part of the new Scary Movie and work with each other. Again, this is a franchise we created more than 20 years ago. We remember people laughing in the aisles and hope to see that again. We look forward to working with Jonathan Glickman and his team at the new Miramax to bring these laughs to theaters where they belong. It's a double reunion." I do wonder, because those first films weren't very PC. And really, none of the films were PC when you think about it. I wonder where they will go with this now, because we do know, I mean, cancel culture, all that. You say the wrong thing, you do the wrong thing, you're going to get canceled, you're going to get raked over the coals. And I wonder if they're going to hold back in any way, shape, or form with this reboot to this franchise, or if they're just going to be like, "Hey, we don't care. We're putting out what we want to put out. If you shouldn't get offended. They're just jokes," right? So I'm wondering what approach that they're going to take with this, because, again, when you look at back when, I mean, it says right here, the first movie was released in 2000. A lot's changed since 2000. I mean, it'll be 26 years since, between that film and now this reboot. So, again, a lot's changed. I mean, cancel culture really, I don't want to say wasn't a thing in 2000, but it wasn't as prevalent, maybe, if that's the best way to put it. And social media really wasn't that big of a thing, or really much of a thing in 2000 as it is today. So, all right, let's wrap this one up. In just 4 years after Wes Craven reinvigorated the horror genre with his meta-slasher masterpiece Scream, the film parodied horror movies of the time, including Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and The Blair Witch Project, and the horror comedy spoof scared up $278 million at the worldwide box office. So yeah, it just talks a little bit more about that. But really, the whole, and that's the end of the article, actually. So yeah, the whole purpose of this was just give everyone an update for those who are fans of this. If you didn't know, both of them will be returning, and the release date as it stands today will be a summer release of June 12th, 2026. Now, I could see that getting adjusted maybe by a week or two, but I think they're going to do their best to keep it in the summer, because there's not going to be anything else like this coming out. I'm not going to say it won't have any competition of other films, but when you think about superhero films, like DC will obviously compete with Marvel, and internally they don't want to put out films that are going to compete with each other that they're owned by. But what's this one going to compete with? No one else is going to be putting out a spoof movie next year, in the summertime, that's going to be doing what Scary Movie has done in the past and will probably continue to do. So, all right, let's move on to our next story, which is 28 Years Later Part 2, which is The Bone Temple, gets positive buzz out of first test screening. Again, I mean, I think that's good news, but maybe now people are starting to either realize or come to the conclusion of, what they were sold and what they're getting are two different things, and maybe now they're just being more accepting of it. Again, I would be a little miffed about what we were told and what we've gotten, but that's just me. 28 days later, director Danny Boyle and screenwriter Alex Garland finally reunited to make a sequel to their zombie, or if you prefer, Infected People movie classic. 28 years later, which is meant to launch a whole trilogy of 28 days later sequels, reached theaters at the end of June, and the second chapter in the trilogy, 28 Years Later Part 2, The Bone Temple, is scheduled to be released on January 16, 2026. The first test screening of the sequel was held last month, and World of Real reports that some very positive buzz has come out of that test screening. Again, I think that's good. I didn't realize we were going to be getting this, and maybe I did realize and just forgot that we were going to be getting this one early next year. I'm wondering why they opted to go with a January release. I can't remember too many films that have had a wide, large success in January. I'm wondering why they didn't opt for early summer, or like going into the summer of 2026, knowing that this one has to be just as or even more successful than the last one in order to get the green light to even do the third film that they want to do. So interesting choice there. Garland also wrote the screenplays for the sequels that will come after 28 years later. Boyle directed the first one, then passed the helm over to Candyman and the Marvel's director Nia DaCosta for the sequel. Boyle might circle back to direct 28 Years Later Part 3, but that one doesn't have a full green light, and exactly what I was just talking about, and probably won't until we see how the second film does at the box office. 28 Years Later made $150 million at the global box office, but seemed to have trouble connecting with the audience. I think so. I would absolutely agree with that. Review scores, I mean, you can see here, 7 out of 10 for this one, and then someone else gave it only a 6.5, so pretty mid type of film. And again, the hype for this was there. I just don't think it was able to deliver on the hype and what they were trying to sell as the product. According to World of Real, 28 Years Later Part 2, The Bone Temple could turn things around in a big way for this planned trilogy. So we have a quote here. Audiences report indicate multiple applauses breaks during the film. One attendee who loved the first film said, "I thought part one was outstanding, but this surpassed it." Jack O'Connell, coming off Sinners, is already being touted for Villain Performance of the Year for the second year in a row. The central dynamic is essentially a duel between O'Connell and Ray Fiennes' Bone Shriner, Dr. Ian Kelson, who has a larger role than in the first installment, delivers a performance that's even better than the previous film. The script impresses, particularly the third act, which had reportedly elicited a strong positive reaction from attendees when the narrative took a bold turn. One insider hinted that there's a sequence in the first act that will be talked about for much of 2026. Cinematically, the sequel takes a more traditional approach than its predecessor. Unlike the first film, there's no evidence that iPhones or handheld cameras dominated the production. Instead, DaCosta embraces a more classical film style. So I think, yeah, that's where this one ends off. I mean, it's good news that it's gotten in test, but we know a lot changed. I mean, this is, potentially one test screening or maybe a handful of them that's already taken place. And we know a lot can change with a film between now and the time this one releases in January. But, I mean, obviously, even now, and this was just dropped yesterday, they still have no green light for the third one. And it seems like now everything hinges on the fact of this second film. Now, will it do better than 150 million? I don't think it will. I don't. And the fact that they're saying there's this sequence that's going to be the talk of 2026, I don't believe that. I hear hinted that there's a sequence in the final act that will be talked about for much of 2026. Now, unless that's where Cillian Murphy shows up and in the final act, and that's what's going to be the draw, and he just happens to pop up in that final act, and then we move into the third film where he's supposed to be now, not predominantly, but heavily in this third film if they get it greenlit. I don't see it breaking 100. I don't see it doing better than 150 million. And that's just me. I don't know, obviously, what this sequence is, but I highly doubt there's something that this film is going to deliver in a final act that's going to be the talk of the entire year when it comes to the horror genre, in my opinion. So Anyways, that's the latest we have for 28 Years Later, Part 2, The Bone Temple. Again, due out January 16th, 2026. And again, we'll have to wait and see if that even holds true, if that doesn't get pushed a little bit further back, maybe February or March. I'm just surprised it would go for the second week of the year. All right, so moving on to our next topic, Longline for Zach Cregger's Resident Evil has leaked. So yeah, this dropped late yesterday, and we just did a story actually on Resident Evil as well yesterday, and this dropped well after we uploaded our video. So this is some late breaking information. Zach Cregger, writer director of Barbarian. So a lot of this we already know. Aiming for September, all that's new. We want to get to actually, what's the meat of this. We've previously heard that Cregger is writing the screenplay with Shay Hayton, and the story apparently harkens back to the original Capcom game's horror roots. The story is rumored to center on a down-on-his-luck courier who's tasked with delivering a package to a remote hospital. En route, he finds himself caught in the middle of a viral apocalypse and forced to fight hordes of mutated creatures. It looks like the rumors might be true because the industry scooper Daniel Richmond has now shared a long line for the film that matches the description. Here's the supposed long line. Brian, a laid-back organ courier, is sent on a late-night delivery to Raccoon City General Hospital. En route through a snowy mountain road, he accidentally hits a strange woman with his car. She survives, but something is very wrong. As he tries to help, Brian stumbles into a full-blown outbreak involving horrifying technical-based mutations and bioengineered monstrosities. So that's where that ends. This hasn't been confirmed, but Cregger has confirmed that the movie will star his Weapons cast member Austin Abrams. He has said, "quote It's not at all like Barbarian or Weapons and Weapons. It's going to be a rock'em sock'em. It's for me to play and turn my brain off and just make an Evil Dead 2." So we've read this quote before, so I'm not going to keep reading this one. That's nothing new. We've covered that quote I think like 2 or 3 different times. But what I wanted to cover here is this red text here. What I'm highlighting now is the supposed long line that's leaked. Reading that, I mean, it is different than what we've seen thus far, and it is something like to my recollection from playing the games. It's been a minute since I've played any of the Resident Evil games. This isn't a story that's been told specifically. There might be nuances here and there we're going to see, but specifically as he's laying it out here, hasn't been told. Now, the fact that we have a laid-back organ courier, I mean, is this person now going to all of a sudden turn into Rambo? I mean, who probably has, zero combat skills, zero weapon skills or anything like that, and all of a sudden, after he hits some strange woman with his car, she happens to survive and then realizes, wait a minute, she's, a mutated creature. And then he starts running into all these other mutations and monstrosities, as they've put it. He's all of a sudden now just going to be able to just go into Rick or Shane from The Walking Dead and just be able to just survive. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they play that out, because if it's just an hour and a half of some guy who should have died in the first 5 minutes and manages to not only survive but manage to fly, he all of a sudden can fly helicopters, and all of a sudden he can do all these things that he shouldn't be able to either know how to do or even do, period. I think that's where it's going to be kind of like, okay, time to either fast watch this by just hit fast forward and give it a quick watch, or just turn it off. So, but again, I know Resident Evil has a massive following, whether it's the games or the films. So I'm happy for those who do love the franchise that you are getting another film and somewhat of an original story. That this is just my perspectives on a film that's not even due out for another over a year. Now, that perspective will probably change when we start getting first images, when we start getting teasers and full trailers. And I'll be happy to admit, like, hey, it actually looks pretty fire. So more to come on this one, but we have a long runway before we get anything, I think, substantial on this to truly understand where Zach's going to be going with this. So, All right, so just real quickly on our last topic. Okay, so it is Screambox. I just want to call that out because at the beginning of this video I mentioned I couldn't remember if it was Shudder or Screambox that I heard this about. So 50 plus Troma movies plus Toxic Crusaders animated series are now streaming on Screambox. We're not going to read through every single film. I mean, I scanned this, it's a very short article. It's just letting everyone know, hey, ahead of Macon Blair's The Toxic Avenger reboot coming to theaters on August 29th, which is just a little over 10 days away, the legendary indie studio Troma has joined forces with Screambox in a big way this month. In addition to Lloyd Kaufman's original The Toxic Avenger, its 3 sequels, and the Toxic Crusaders animated series. 50 plus classic titles are now streaming on Screambox. The lineup, and here's the lineup, right? Again, I'm not going to read off every single film, but I'll just kind of slowly scroll so you can get an idea. If you see a film that you've been wanting to see, haven't seen in a long time, and now it's there streaming. If you have Screambox, now you know you can go check it out. And if you don't have Screambox, maybe this will be an incentive for you to get it. I don't think it says, yeah, it doesn't. Okay, right here, maybe it does. So start streaming on Screambox. Okay, it just tells you how you can stream it. So it doesn't say if these are going to be permanent or if they're going to only be there for a short amount of time while the Toxic Avenger is out in theaters. Hopefully for those that are fans of content like this, hopefully it's a permanent thing. And again, it's an incentive for you to get Screambox. So, all right, everyone, that is going to do it for today's horror news update. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Again, we have Anna and Regina returning back to the scary movie franchise for the reboot. 28 years later, part 2, The Bone Temple. Got some positive things going for the test screening, but it's gotta be a banger of a film if they're gonna get that third one greenlit. The Longline for Zach's Resident Evil film appears to have leaked. It appears to have confirmed what we not knew before, because again, I didn't know that before, but it's starting to confirm some of the information that's already been starting to trickle out there. So, and again, Screambox uploading 50 plus additional films out there for all of you Troma fans. So drop a comment in the comments section, and if you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next one. Later.